Sometimes statement may not be clear, but there is always a deeper understanding. It is not just about the who said what. The whens, hows, and wheres are equally important. Join me on a whole new journey in the conversation with Augustus as I bring you discussions from religion to politics, health to economy, humanity to social activities, among many others. Conversation with Augustus knows no foreign borders. The show comes to you every Wednesday at 6:15 p.m. GMT on our YouTube channel Conversation with Augustus and on Radio Angelus www.radioangelus.com. This program is sponsored by Safe Life Experience Consult Limited. Contact them for all your travel and tour needs, as well as your events. Thank you so much, Father Rayond. So now let us look at this issue. What are some of the challenges that the current youth are facing that has brought about this book of yours, The Marathon to Marriage?
Current issues are, I'd say the first thing that I would say our generation lacks is wisdom. And wisdom is particularly, it's knowledge that is applied, that not just applied, but applied in a sense that enables or empowers a person to choose the right. Our world is full of knowledge. Everybody has access to knowledge because on the phone, it's so easy. What we are lacking is our being directed to use the knowledge we have to apply them and be convinced that the application must lead us to choose the right. That's why the book, The Marathon to Marriage, doesn't just give information, but tells us what you should do. It tells us and deals with topics such as, current topics such as netiquette. Netiquette, that is the ethics regarding use of social media when you are in a relationship. What to do, what not to do, how not to stalk your partner, and how to make sure that the phone doesn't become the element by which, people have a lot of problems. Passwords. What's the rule? These are issues that are dealt with in here, that are dealt with, but not just that. But so, I can go on.
Can go on.
Current topics like LGBTQ plus whatever is dealt here. What's there? So all those things are there, yes.
The issue of marriage is so essential to the family. And I've heard you priests preach about it a lot. You yourself once said that if you can get good Catholic priests, it comes from the family. If you can get good married couples, it comes from the family. Now, what are some of the Catholic teachings that are very practical and relevant to couples who are thinking of preparing for marriage? One, and those who are not ready, but remotely preparing themselves to get into courtship and then later on to marriage.
First of all, whether you are in marriage or not in marriage, a good education knowledge is important. Second, your ability to allow yourself with the Holy Spirit to implement whatever you learn is key. Third, making use of the sacraments such as reconciliation to evaluate your stance are crucial. Now, whatever it is, couples or young people must know that marriage is in phases. It's not just a decision.
Can you take us through the phases?
The phases, we have the remote time where you don't really have a partner, but you just want to know. You want to know. You want to deepen your knowledge. This is the kind of counseling that we give to children, infants, adolescents. Fancy look. Canon law, Canon 1060, Canon 1096 says that everybody who marries, it is presumed that you understand that marriage involves a form of intimacy or sexual intercourse between a man and a woman. This kind of intimacy is presumed, this kind of knowledge is presumed as soon as a child or a person has reached the age of puberty. Ask, when do children or people have reached puberty? 10 years, 9 years, 11 years, some as early as 8. And he says by that time, they should have known who is going to be teaching them. So if you are a parent, you should be thinking of teaching. If you are a child, you should be thinking of knowing. These are issues that are fundamental. And those who are in marriage, because those who are in marriage are going to end up, hopefully, as parents, either of their own or by adoption. But if they don't know, then what kind of generation? Just like the church makes sure, wants that people who are going to get married must be confirmed. Now, if people who are going to be married are not confirmed, or are only confirmed but are not staunch Catholics, then what kind of examples are they going to be giving to each other, let alone their children? These are issues that must come up. Okay. What about marrying, a Catholic or a non-Catholic? Is it just a question of a choice? What is the wisdom of the church in marrying a Catholic? Are the two the same? Is it just because I love anybody, I can marry anybody? One of the topics that you find in the book says you cannot just fall in love with anybody. Wow. Falling in love, whereas it is just an emotion, must be controlled. It must be controlled.
And Father, even with the emotion that you just mentioned, I always say that emotion will fade away. But beneath the emotion, that is what matters.
Indeed, because, there are 3 levels of love. You can have, you have the emotion, or you can have the passion, you can have the intimacy, and then you have also the commitment. These are 3 levels by Streben talks about that. So you have passion, you have intimacy, and you have commitment. These 3 must be present to be able to establish love. Most of the time, people talk about love when the emotion or the passion is strong, and that is not really. That's not really. You can be passionately involved with somebody without committed to the person. That's what is happening. So all these things, and these are exposed in the book. So you can have what we call the honeymoon. The honeymoon in the book, I identify 3 types of honeymoon. The false start honeymoon, the real honeymoon, and then the jump start honeymoon. Now, a false start is anybody who in athletics, when there is, there's a gun shot for us to move, and you go ahead before the gun, even though you run, you are disqualified.
Definitely.
Even though you run, you are disqualified. So there is a false start honeymoon. There are couples, or there are people who call themselves couples, who are engaged in sexual intercourse. and all the affairs they are having is just considered a false start honeymoon. That is there.
Okay.
So even though they are running, even though they are doing what couples do, they don't have the license, so they are just illegal.
But Father,
they are like
they always say
somebody.
this story that how can you go and buy a car without testing it?
You know, I think then such people should tell me whether the prison officers must become armed robbers before they put into the prison.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, such person should just tell me that, you know, that's not right. This is a very typical worldly mentality that wants to justify our appetites. So
Okay.
must not be encouraged at all. And besides, you see, if you haven't known, if you haven't had a field trip of sexual, encounters, how would you know the difference? You understand? How would you know? And because human needs are insatiable, how many will you taste before?
Definitely.
Why is it that when men or when people want to marry or when guys move into the community, they want to look out for the most beautiful lady or they want to look out for the most innocent one of them? And they would make that person above innocence. And when they are ready for marriage, they go and look for another innocent one. Why?
I remember one time I chanced upon a video on, I think, Facebook, and it was a lady who was saying that when a lady sleeps with one or two, at most three men, and she gets married, it becomes a problem for her. Now she starts to compare the husband with the former, and this creates problems. So sometimes you realize that we have a
constant problem.
We are having challenges, and we are not. It's very hard to find the roots of the problem without thinking about what we did in the past. That is the maligning. That's the root cause of most of our problems in marriages.
In counseling, we call that family of origin.
Okay.
Or your things that how you've come up. You know, in life we are made up of nature and nurture.
Nature and nurture. Okay.
Nurture. So your nature would always be coming up. So that's what all the. So if you have grown up in a Catholic faith, if you have grown up in whatever, if you've grown up in a place where you were lived in seclusion, if you grew up from, with a very large family, small family, very, family that is open, not open, all these things will count. That's what it. So you asked, what are the topics?
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah, dealing with the topic.
That, yeah. And then I treated one of the topics that says waiting is golden.
Waiting is golden.
Waiting is golden. Manners maketh man.
Manners maketh man.
Man, yes.
Oh, manners maketh man.
Maketh.
Wow.
It is your manners, and I put it, man is not human by birth.
Brother, this one it sounds like you are becoming a rapper. You are rhyming words from words, rhyming them, and it sounds so sweet.
I am if you read from Revelation chapter 10, verse 10, he says that when I heard the word of God, it sounded so sweet like honey in my mouth. But when it entered to my stomach, it became so sour and bitter.
Wow.
It may sound sweet, but they are deep, and they have deep implications. So mine is not to make it sweet. Mine is to make it real. Mine is to make it such that it is easy for you to swallow. But you need to understand that when you have swallowed, it's going to taste bitter in your tummy. Anybody who thinks marriage is a rose, it's a bed of roses, or is a place where you follow marriage because you are of age, because you have the shape, because you have the education, because you are good, you are seemingly good, and you are not ready, then you are not, that's dangerous. So we need to look at all these things. If I should ask from the, I said, these days, if I ask any young person, do you know about the story of Adam and Eve? They would say, yes, yes. And I ask you, can you make a SWOT analysis of Adam and Eve? What do you think there would be? A SWOT analysis.
This is
now this book helps young people to understand the SWOT analysis, the strengths and opportunities that are within. The strengths and the opportunities that are within. And then, you look at what is. So if you cannot look at the scripture and make SWOT analysis of biblical personalities,
yes,
and you are not able to make that, how are you going to make it for yourselves? So when people are in relationship, when you are courting, you need to be able to say that, okay, is it because I love this person, that's why I think I should marry that person? Or I know that I'm going to be committed to this person? Do I know that this person has a family that does not tolerate people from my tribe? Threats.
Yeah, tribal
You
issue.
understand? So you cannot enter into the marriage and say that, well, it's just between the two of us. We have decided and everything. As they say, if you love me, love my cats and my dogs as well.
Yeah. Father, having mentioned this one, would find time and talk about tribal marriage, and also this statement, if you love me, you love my dog. This issue is also a very typical one dealing with exes in marriage issue. We'll talk about all of this, so our viewers should stay tuned. We'll be talking about a lot of things since we need them in our day. So, Father, from your book, I could see, I think you've started it, Rubik's. So, Rubik's 3, you talk about from the wedding marathon, the honeymoon, and you talk about what is wedding, betrothal, and then customary, and then finally the honeymoon comes. What are you driving at?
Now, the whole purpose of the marathon is to be able to reach an end where you would be able to get your certificate and begin to marry. So it's all about preparation. The long preparation, that's that's about the marathon. Now, when you get there, when you get to the next thing that you're going to be is going to be the wedding. If I should ask anybody, what is a wedding? Anybody is going to say, maybe, what we do in church. Is there something like a traditional wedding?
Yeah.
Would there be something like a traditional wedding?
I know we have engagements, and even when you mention about traditional wedding, that brings to mind this question. I've heard a lot of people say that the home one, the engagement, is the marriage and not the church one.
We would deal with those ones. So you just mentioned now, wedding simply means the marriage rite.
Yeah.
The rituals. So customary, there's a wedding. Any ritual, but it has been now associated more with what we call the white wedding. But the wedding, the concept is the rites of the putting a man and a woman together for them to be constituted as husband and wife. Then we have the betrothal. A couple of minutes ago, you mentioned that you know about the engagement, but I tell you that probably we do not know, because I don't remember celebrating any or attending any, practically any engagement. Somebody will say, how is it possible? But I saw you at this place or that place. Yes, but unfortunately, it wasn't an engagement. It was a marriage ceremony. What we call an engagement is properly customary marriage. An engagement is simply when a guy meets another and makes a proposal. Most of the time, we are not there. That's an engagement. It is a customary marriage. Okay, so we look at that. After that, so after there is the wedding, then there is the betrothal, or then that comes in. Then you have also what? The wedding itself, the marriage itself. Then comes honeymoon. Don't forget, marriage is never complete until it is consummated. Canon law, we says ratum et consummatum, meaning celebrated and what? Ratified. So the public wedding is the one in church, and the private wedding is the one that the couples do finalizing. So that's it. But the question about the church and the traditional people say that unfortunately that's way. I mean, that's never. If you read from rubric 11 from the book, you treat marriages under Ghanaian law. Marriages under Ghanaian law. As Ghanaian, there are about three ways or four ways by which a person could be married. Neither of them is dependent on the other. You could be married customarily, you could be married in the church sense, and you could be married in the ordinance or Mohammedan manner. Neither of these depend on the other. They are not, at least the church marriage is not dependent in any way on any of these. The church marriage, which we call the matrimony, is respects, collaborates, goes along with, but does not depend. It is a marriage on its own. So to think that you need to be married at home before you bring it here and everything, that unfortunately is a misconception. So if you read from the book, I think I make it very, very clear about that. Yes. So
can the church ban people from getting married?
Of course, if they don't have the requisite.
What are the risks? Can you throw more light on it?
Age could be one. Age is one of the requirements. If you don't have the age, you cannot marry. Canon law says that a woman should be of age 14 and a man should be of age 16. However, in a country like Ghana, it is 18 years.
Okay.
So
now the church and then the laws of the country are not on the same level when it comes to the age. So what happens? How are you able to draw the line?
Whenever the laws of the nation are higher, you take that one, brother.
Oh, okay. Yes. I can also see that you also talk about who can apply for annulment. What role does the former spouse play in the process?
Yes.
Your book also talks about divorce, if I'm right.
It talks about divorce. It talks about divorce as something that goes against marriage and family life.
So
one of those things that goes against marriage and family life. So you want to ask a question, yeah?
So does the Catholic Church allows divorce?
It is not about the Catholic Church. It's not just about the Catholic Church. Is it Christian? Is it biblical to allow divorce? What does Jesus say? He says people who do that did it when their hearts were stubborn, but it was never so from the beginning. Jesus is very emphatic about that. And this is what the church, which is the Catholic Church, which is a biblically founded church and based on the faith of the apostles, continues that tradition proudly.
Proudly, but does the church allows divorce, yes or no?
The church cannot allow that which is fundamentally forbidden in scripture.
Okay, so the church does not allow divorce, but only gives annulment or separation.
There's nothing in the Catholic Church called annulment.
Okay.
We call only figuratively called annulment. So if you would see from the book, I'm sure it will be captured a little bit from here, a little bit. But if you capture, you would see that, and every time I use in the rubric, every time I use the word annulment, it is always in caps. So if you would see, every time annulment is in quotation mark, meaning that what people call that is known, but the church doesn't have annulment. The church has what we call declaration of nullity, saying that a marriage ab initio was null and void from the beginning, but not to say that you are breaking it whilst the marriage exists.
Look, Father, this one there, you are discouraging a lot of people from getting married in the Catholic Church, because I know some churches allow divorce, but some churches allow divorce, they allow separations.
Well, if they are Bible believing, if they are Bible believing churches as they claim,
but they speak about it.
Bible believing,
they speak about it. But at the end of the day, they allow.
I'm just putting the challenge out there. If they are truly Bible believing communities as they claim,
yes,
then they should reconsider that.
Okay. So now here lies the case. Someone gets married in the Catholic Church, but also has to register the marriage in the with the law. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the country of the law allows divorce, but the church does not allow. So for a Catholic who gets married and signs the certificate of marriage on the altar, or on the altar where we celebrate the Eucharist, or where the body and blood of Christ turns into,
when we correct it that don't sign on the altar. The altar is only for the celebration of the Eucharist. We could sign near somewhere on the sanctuary or anywhere, but the altar must be used only for celebration of the Eucharist. Yeah.
Okay, so when those of us who get our marriage signed in the church, and the church does not allow divorce or annulment, but the state allows divorce, what happens? When the
everything that you see, what happens is that you are married, and with that same marriage, you have other alliances. So when you are married in the state, by the state laws, you take advantage where the state gives you. Where you are married traditionally, you take advantage where customary gives you. And you take advantage where your church gives you. But you cannot carry your church advantage and take to the state. And neither can you take your state advantage and come to the church. Each one is autonomous.
So you understand? So then it becomes a battlefield. When there's
it's not a battlefield. Because if I should put the question to you, if I should go to the court and have a divorce, and then the marriage celebrated in the custom at home has not been dissolved by parents, would the parents consider the marriage as dissolved?
This becomes a very difficult issue. Now, the one who went to the court has...
Would the parents consider the marriage as divorced when you have only done it in court?
This is serious, Father.
This is the reality. This is the truth. This is the truth, and that's what it is. Every one of these marriages is unique, and it gives you a particular right in that domain. So if you have a privilege given to you or right accrued by the state, you do not carry it into the what? Into the church or to the family.
The church, the states, and the family are intertwined. Let me put it that way, are intertwined when it comes to the issue of marriage. One may allow divorce, one does not. One permits it, one disagrees with it. How do we navigate this issue for the benefits of those in marriage, so that at the end of the day, they don't lose their salvation and they don't lose what is good for them?
Well, if a person has a dual citizenship and has some rights that the person exercises in one country and the other, and the person now is wants to, have other rights. The fact that you have that right in one country doesn't give you that right in the other. If you have a driving license in Ghana, you don't necessarily have a driving license in the US.
Yeah, true.
So there is no confusion. It doesn't mean that because of this, Ghana and the US are fighting. All the US will tell you is that if you want to have the driving license in the US, these are the rules. Go through these processes. And it is the rules are not made just because of you. They were made even before all of us were born. So whilst you were establishing the marriage in the ordinance, there were laws governing ordinance. There were laws governing customary marriage, and there were laws governing matrimony before we entered. And it is presumed that you would have learned these before you entered. This is the reason why I have been making the campaign for remote marriage counseling, so that boys and girls don't end up in marriage who say, I didn't know. Only boys, only girls, when they are confronted with difficult problems, say, it is not my fault. Whilst you take you want to marry, you should know what it means. Not only how it is, contracted, but you should know what are the possibilities to step out. If you enter into the Catholic Church, the rules of Scripture says, until death do you part. And that is what it means. You can be a Ghanaian citizen and come to Ghana, and because of your dual citizenship, cause whatever you like in Ghana and you'll be wanted. Leave to your second country and live as a free man. But remember, once you have committed that act in Ghana, you forever remain a fugitive.
Yeah.
So if that is the concept and understanding, we will not create an unnecessary tension between the state, the church, and the culture just because of one person or two people's desires. The state, the church, and the culture all have their laws well established. So please know it before you enter. That's my take.
Know the rules governing marriage before you enter. The law, the church, and the family. Do not cause confusion because of our own, or we shouldn't. In fact, let me add myself to it. We shouldn't cause confusion because of our own selfish desires to create problems for ourselves and create problems for the state. As Father has rightly said, the state and the church and the family will continue to live in harmony, not because of one or two individuals' selfish desires. The state and the church and the family should fight. No way. Very Reverend Father Osei, the author of the book Marathon to Marriage, a companion for remote marriage preparation. Father has been a priest for 23 years, has been a publisher for 21 years, and the Marathon, the book we just spoke about, the Marathon to Marriage, is his 20th book. He continues to write, and he's a blessing to our generation. Those of us who have personal relationship with him knows. I remember he wrote a book called The Capsules of Love or something, some years back. The motivational capsules, yeah. I bought one then and I read it. It's very good. So as the word he rightly said, remote, not in the 21st century, but let's look for the deeper meaning of what it means, remote. Remotely, me, myself, preparing. The lady herself preparing for marriage, getting to know what it is. Not remotely in the 21st century where we mean by, oh, I'm in Ghana, she's in Italy, or she's somewhere, and then we are remotely preparing for marriage. Let us think deep and let us seek for knowledge so that when we get married, our marriages will be a fruitful one. There's no divorce in the Catholic Church. Annulment is in quotes, and as you saw in the book. So, my dear brothers and sisters, my dear parents, let's just get a copy of the book Marathon to Marriage and put it at home for our children. Let them start reading. Let us start learning about marriage, because one day get married. Your children will get married. If you're a young man or you're a young woman, you get married. And once a wise man said that, if you're a man, marry at all costs. Marry at all costs. When you marry a good woman, blessed be to God. When you marry a bad woman, know that you become a philosopher. It also goes to the woman. When you turn it around, it also goes to the woman. When you marry a good man, you are blessed. When you marry a bad man, you become a philosopher. So thank you so much, Reverend Father Rayond Osetitu.
I also know a wise man who says that not all people will get married.
Yeah.
And I chose that.
Yes. Thank you so much, Reverend Father Rayond Osetitu. The program is Conversation with Augustus. God bless you all, and join, subscribe, and share.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Father.
Sometimes statement may not be clear, but there is always a deeper understanding. It is not just about the who said what. The whens, hows, and wheres are equally important. Join me on a whole new journey in the Conversation with Augustus as I bring you discussions from religion to politics, health to economy, humanity to social activities, among many others. Conversation with Augustus knows no foreign borders. The show comes to you every Wednesday at 6:15 p.m. GMT on our YouTube channel Conversation with Augustus and on Radio Angelus, www.radioangelus.com. This program is sponsored by Safe Life Experience Consult Limited. Contact them for all your travel and tour needs, as well as your events.